All right, I'm hitting broadcast. So we are recording now. And I know that some of the candidates are still joining us and some are adjusting their computers and their phones. Oh, there's Elisa. I see you now. And Troy's there. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And maybe if you're not talking, go on mute just in case you're like Kenny and in your car. We don't pick up any sounds. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Schneps Media's Rapid Fire Debates. And I'm Sky from Politics NY. We are 1 week away from the special election on March 23rd for Council District 15, a seat that became vacant when Richie Torres was elected to U.S. Congress this past election. We have 1 hour together with our candidates here from Council District 15. We have an audience here, so hello audience. We can't see them, but they can see us. And I want to remind everyone who's watching, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen to type in any questions for the candidates, and we'll try and get through some of them towards the end of our hour together. Hi, Jose. I have Alex Mitchell from my team working with me to ensure all the candidates keep their responses brief. He will keep time. You'll have 1 minute for the most part to answer any of the questions. So like many of you, I've watched a lot of the debates and forums as a consumer of news and as a voter. And most of these debates, I've seen the candidates are asked very specific questions, and sometimes the issues are not black and white issues. So it's very hard to compare responses between candidates and evaluate who's the best to be elected. So I know you as candidates know the issues backwards and forwards, but sometimes to the lay person, it's confusing. So out of however many of you are on this screen, like 10 of you, there may be ways where you agree or disagree, and we will try and get to the bottom of the issues today to help the audience and those who are watching determine who they should cast their vote for next Tuesday, who should be their number 1, 2, 3, 4 choice. So I'm not much of a rule follower myself, so I'm not going to set any major ground rules other than to please keep your answers short, not necessarily sweet, because I will tell you that one of the questions I'm going to ask you, and I just moderated Council District 11 special election debate, one of the questions I'm going to ask each of you to pick a criticism about one of your opponents here, and then it turned into like a Bravo reunion show and everyone was loving it. So we're going to do something like that today here. And overall, we'd like to hear from each of you holistically to get a sense of your character, and you'll have time to illustrate your best self. So I'd like to thank our partners for today's debate, the New Bronx Chamber of Commerce President Lisa Soren and BronxNet TV Executive Director Michael Max Nabi. Our Schneps Media Rapid Fire debate, see the fire emojis. We are informative and informal, and the best way to showcase the candidates is by tapping into the community. So we appreciate the partnerships with those different community groups. So audience, again, thanks for being here. If you have questions, use the Q&A function. We will get to all the questions we have. There's a lot of candidates. So first and foremost, in a timed 1 minute opening, we'll go in alphabetical order by last name. That's our first order. And thanks, Alex, again for keeping time. Let's hear from each candidate. Tell us in 1 minute, who are you, a little bit about yourself, and why are you running for Council District 15? So let's see. I guess Troy would be first because he has a B last name.
I have an A last name.
Oh, you have an A last name. I'm sorry, Kenny.
I'm sorry, Troy.
I got confused by pronouns for a second. No.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Kenny.
Hi, my name is Kenny Agosto. I'm a Democrat running for City Council on Row D, Democrat on the Empower People line, ranked choice first. I am a 30+ year experience in public service. I worked 18 years giving solid constituent services in both houses of the state legislature, working for people as like former Governor Patterson when he was a Senate Minority Leader in the MIS department, 9 years with Ruth Hassel Thompson, 5 years with my current boss, Senator Jamal Bailey. I'm committed to empowering our communities. We need fast pandemic response and relief, stimulating our local economy and ensuring that housing is a right. I'm the person with the most experience, and I think we have a lot of good hearts here. So I try to say I have a big heart, and I'm with a good team here of competitors that we are going to be working with each other no matter what. So thank you for everything. And I hope that you vote early. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now it's Troy's turn.
Thanks, Sky. Hi, everyone. I'm Troy Blackwell. I'm running for city council because I feel that the Bronx, much like the rest of New York City, is facing 4 major crises, which is public health, a reckoning on race, a lack of educational resources, and of course, this humongous housing crisis. I'm a proud son of the Bronx. My stepdad is a small business owner here. I grew up here. My siblings and I went to Title I public schools here. And, you know, this is the community that raised me. I'm someone who worked in places that I never imagined that I would ever work for, being a poor kid from the South Bronx. But that is something that inspired me. I had really good mentors, teachers who helped guide me. And that's what I want to come out of my campaign is I want to inspire, I want to provide hope. And for all of those who are down and out on the luck, just know that you can aspire to be anything you want to be. I'm a kid who went from living in the projects to working in the White House, and that doesn't happen too often.
Thank you. Elisa.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. I had to jump on with my phone. I'm Elisa Crespo. I was raised by a working class mother. I grew up in public housing. I went to public schools. I served as the education liaison to the Bronx Borough President, and I advocated for students and families across the borough. I'm running for city council because I believe in the power of public service. I know how it can transform people's lives. And I think that this year we have a really unique opportunity to elect a brand new council that is actually diverse and reflective of our populace. And so I see this as an opportunity to uplift bold and transformative leaders. And I think it will take a whole entire new generation of people to bring real systemic change to our city. So I'm really focused on youth development, workforce development, fully funding our public schools, and very happy to be here. And I just want to say at the outset, I do have to jump off in about 30 minutes because I have another commitment, but thank you so much for having us here tonight.
Okay. And we'll try and be as quick and efficient as possible. It's Latchmi. I know you were there and now I don't see you. Are you there? Let's skip over to, oh, are you there? There you are.
I'm trying really hard to be here, y'all. The internet for the last 3 days has been absolutely terrible. Apologies. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, tell us
Sure.
about yourself.
So I missed the prompt and the intro and the wonderful things you were saying at the beginning. So I actually don't know what we're doing at the moment.
Tell us really quickly about who you are and why you're running in 1 minute or less.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Latchmi Devi Gopal, also a candidate for District 15 City Council. I was born and raised in this community right here in the Bronx. And I'm a community organizer and activist who's won and pushed national campaigns, helped win a $15 minimum wage here in New York, pushed and worked with Riders Alliance for fair fares and better buses here in the Bronx. And I'm really hoping to bring that community organizer accountability framework to City Council and to this budget that will make or break our communities when we look at rapid response for COVID and long-term infrastructure. This is my home, and I know fully that this budget that has been neglectfully utilized in our communities can definitely be leveraged better to make sure that we're living dignified lives and have affordable housing, healthcare, small business support, access to jobs. These are things that we deserve and we should have had for a long time. And we definitely need a city council member who's going to fight for those things.
Thank you. Lilithe.
Hello.
Hi, yes.
Hi, my name is Lilithe Lozano. I call myself Lily from the block. I've been advocating for this community. I know how of the obstacles that we've endured. I govern 41 housing developments in Bronx North. I was instrumental in being one of the executive board members to fight NYCHA, because we all know that as much as we all would like to, with common ground, say that affordable housing exists, the only affordable housing right now is New York City Housing Authority. And we are going through grave challenges because of it. I've been an advocate for seniors, for children. I work for 3 state legislators. I was part of the Bronx County, so I know the politics. I am not your career politician. I'm here for the better good because I live it, I breathe it, I comprehend it. I've only lived in public housing. I breathe it each and every day. And I'm constantly on the pavement, making sure that the small businesses are being heard. I've been touching base with the small businesses. I've been touching base with all people from all walks of life, because the reality is that 1 out of 4 children are homeless, and we're in a district that's suffering. And I want to be part of this.
I hate to cut you off. I hate to cut you off. I want everyone to keep your
Thank
interest.
you.
I know there's a lot of panelists and
Mhm.
we got to get through everyone. Thank you. Let's hear from Jose Padilla.
Padilla, Sky, Padilla. You
Padilla.
gotta get a little Latin flavor, a little sazon there, Sky.
Yes, hablo un
First
poquito español, so.
Poquito, okay. I just wanted to say hello to you, Lisa and Max. We surely miss Lenny, but anyway, my name's Jose Padilla Jr. I am a product of the district. I am a resident of the Belmont section of the district who has attended public schools in the district. I've been a member of Community Board 6. I've done represented the poor on the area policy board. I have been an elected district leader for the Democrats, independent from the county machine. I've been involved in some of the biggest issues and policy changes, and I've also done a lot of good stuff in the district. I've done a lot of traffic safety improvements. I've renamed streets. I've done coat, food, and toy drives. I've done spree applications for senior. So I believe I'm the most qualified individual in this race to be able to do that, because I've not only legislated, but I've also represented a lot of the people in the district.
Thank you. And now let's hear from John.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is John Sanchez, and I'm proud to be a candidate for City Council for the 15th Council District. And this is a clear decision that the voters have. I'm a guy from 184th and Park Avenue that has been serving this neighborhood to make it one where people want to stay in. For the past 4 years at Community Board 6, we've gone above and beyond the job description. The only community board in the city with the year-round paid internship program, sponsoring open gyms at Roosevelt and Aquinas High School, sponsoring free art classes, working with the Bronx River Art Center. Taking it a step further, when Drew Gardens and West Farms needed help, we got them a $2,000 grant. That's what we need in the city council. We need people with specific ideas and plans. That includes renovating the old Fordham Library. It's vacant, let's turn it into a job development center. Let's finally bring a youth recreation center to Tremont Park. And let's invest in life from the very beginning and finally bring a birthing center to the Bronx. That's why I'm running, and I'm proud to be here.
Thank you. And Altagracia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Altagracia Soldevilla. I come from Dominican Republic 30 years ago without no English, without career. Start studying here at Bottom Manhattan Community College, BNCC. I graduated from that college. I went to Mercy College to get my bachelor degree. Actually, I'm working at BNCC for more than 25 years as an adjunct faculty. This is my first time running for city council in the Bronx. I live in the Bronx for almost 25 years. And one of my proposals is based on education. I think every child should finish high school. This is the foundation that they need to get a degree and to get into a college to get a better future. And I want to focus also on fight for the small business in the Bronx. More than most of our people, the Dominican, the Spanish people, are living in District 15 in the Bronx. And I know that they are struggling because they have a business, small business, and that they are going to bankruptcy because they are paying a lot of taxes they shouldn't be paying. And they don't get in a list for 10 years that it should be. The landlord are pushing them to move most of the time after they do a lot of great job to keep a small business.
I hate to cut anyone off, but I want to keep it short with the responses. So please try and limit your responses to 1 minute. I'd like to go in the same order for this next question about the Bronx as a whole. I know it ranks 62 out of 62 counties in New York, rated last for health outcomes and overall quality of life. There are a lot of issues in your district, as you know. I'd like to hear from each person. Pick one issue that you specifically will focus on first to change that outcome and explain how you'll do that. And let's start with Kenny. And I'm going to mute people who are not talking. Thank you.
No, I go first.
Yes.
Hi. So we have an intersectionality of issues. And right now, my top priorities are the pandemic relief and response. You know, this came on us. This pandemic came on top of us. We have the highest levels of asthma in the country. We have the highest levels of HIV and AIDS in our communities. We have people like me who are type 2 diabetic and people who have high blood pressure. That's endemic of our community. With the pandemic worsen our community's health and economic challenges, I've been making a priority to make sure that we know what to do to not make us 62, what we can do to stimulate our local economy. We have mom and pop businesses that have been here, they're closed. We got to help them. I propose a business incubator program that, like the one in Lehman, but to be expanded all over, you know, for the city to help people connect with workers, to connect with small public bank. We need a public bank. We need to get that together. Ensuring housing is a right. We have a housing crisis. We have people that are home insecure,
Sorry,
food
Kenny,
insecure.
sorry to cut you off.
I'm
That's-
so sorry. I hope I answered the question.
Yes. Yes. The number one issue, and how will you change that? Troy.
I feel that all of these issues are intersectional issues. For me, my top three would be housing, education, and public health. And specifically when it comes to education, I tell people all the time, education was my passport out of poverty. For me, it's something that I want to do is establish a public-private partnership with the city council and some of the tech companies to get resources to the students. I believe as of December, it was something around 77,000 students citywide that did not have laptops or tablets, which to me is atrocious. Second, focusing on housing. Something that's important to me is repealing the 421A tax subsidy. The money that is coming from that can be going to building low income and moderate housing. I also, something I'm passionate about is raising the market value of the city helps voucher. We have over 30 something shelters here in the district. Homelessness is a huge crisis, and those who are coming out of the shelter system are facing discrimination. And last, public health. I think we need a public health information campaign. We are ground zero for COVID. We need language access. We need people to understand that the vaccine is safe. And particularly in communities of color, there's a little bit of distrust with the vaccine. And so I think that that's what my top priorities are.
Thank you. And if you do have a lot of priorities, then talk about what you'll do as your first thing getting into the council. Elisa.
You talked to, I'm sorry, the question was about public health or?
No, the question is there's a lot of issues in the district, right? What's the number one issue? What would be your number one priority in championing in your district? What would you do?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. For me, it's putting people back to work. It's workforce development. It's job creation. This is a district where pockets of it have 20%, 25% unemployment rates. It's a district where over half of single mothers living with children are living in poverty. A district where slightly more than a third of the people have less than a high school education. People are not all going to end up in college, but it doesn't mean that they should be working low wage jobs with starvation wages. So I really want to work with the municipal labor unions and figure out how we can create a targeted hiring program that I refer to as a public option for employment, where we can really train people in District 15, people that are living under the federal poverty level, starting here in this district, and create pathways for them into city service jobs that come with the benefits of organized labor.
Right. Thank you. Latchmi.
Yes, thank you for this question. You know, it was said already that so many of the things that are happening in District 15 and the Bronx at large, they're intersectional. But right now in this moment, what's needed is to leverage a budget and put investment towards what rapid response for COVID is going to look like, and specifically putting investment towards vaccine rollout and healthcare access. And so when we look at what is possible via healthcare, we really have to, as a city council member, we have to push our state legislators to actually pass a New York Health Act so that we can have a single payer option. You know, it's insane. And I hear this at the doors and with constituents all the time that we are living through a health global pandemic, yet have no access to proactive, affordable healthcare. And in regards to other things that we could definitely be doing that's necessary, affordable housing, making sure that our small businesses are supported, really stimulating our local economy, recognizing that our unemployed numbers continue to go up. And so we need to create access to either revenue or financial security. So expanding SNAP benefits so that folks who are food insecure are able to get it. Making sure that we're extending the SIFF vouchers that we have so that people are able to get connected to housing.
Thank you. And again, I hate to cut everyone off, so please just 1 minute. And I know that there are a lot of issues. And when you get into the city council, tell us what your number one thing would be. What would you do? You know, there's a lot of issues to talk about. So tell us. Lily from the block, your turn. You're muted here.
Me? Hello, you hear me?
Yes, tell us.
Okay. One of the things that is one of my priorities as a city council member is housing. That's been my forte because I've seen it. I've been in constituent services having to go to court to prevent somebody from getting evicted. Yes, we do need to revitalize the economy. Yes, we do need to enhance and help and bring in and build partnerships with the business district, the New York City Business District, have the Bronx overall come to the North Bronx because they seem to be under the impression that we don't suffer from disparities, and we do. And having created a comprehensive COVID plan in order to give easy accessibility, as well as getting affordable healthcare to everybody, that we work together to getting it at the block, not somewhere else, because people can move that way. They suffer from, I suffer from hypertension and diabetes. So I deal with that each and every day, and I'm still coping with it. So that's where I'm at. You know, it's health, it's housing, because if you don't have a dwelling, where you gonna be if you don't have a dwelling?
Right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Padilla.
On mute. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Before you can put people back to work, you have to open up. This district right now, it's in a crisis. We have a stability crisis. We have the crime. We have losses of business. We have senior safety, quality of life issues. We have graffiti. And we have a lot of issues that in terms of being able to open up, we have to be able to vaccinate the individuals. We have to be able to bring the resources to this district so that we can open up and then be able to address some of the other issues that are employment and everything else, housing down the line.
Okay. And John Sanchez.
Yeah, it's important for the listeners to know that the next council member has to negotiate a $90 billion budget. And the number one issue is getting people back to work. So the city council, we get about $500,000 towards nonprofits. I want to fund nonprofits like Perscolis, the Knowledge House, and others that are training Bronx residents now to get high-paying jobs that don't require a college degree. That's important. But also, we need to work with our big institutions, such as the Bronx Zoo, the Botanical Garden, to make sure that we're getting people jobs in the short term, especially this summer. And then bigger picture, it's important that we fund an expansion of summer youth employment program internships, and also expand the young adult internship program, where young people that are out of work and out of school can get jobs right away so that they don't have to be relegated to a minimum wage job just because they don't have a college degree.
Thank you. And Altagracia.
Yes, I have a lot of issues, a lot of problems, but since you said that focus is only one because of the time, my first thing I want to help to save the small business and jobs. I know that the small business are going into a crisis, a big crisis because of the pandemic. They don't getting money, they don't getting funding. We need to help them. We need to help the owner to keep the small business going on. We need to pass this legislation that is still in the Congress and nobody's doing nothing because they don't maybe want to deal with that the small business get a list for at least 10 years. They don't start paying taxes for properties that they don't belong to them. And after that, I want to focus on education. I think every child should be finished the high school. They should get the resources to keep on track and to stay in school.
Thank you. Again, I know there's a lot of issues to touch on, and we'll try and get to all the different issues and the ways to make the district a better place. One of the questions comes in from our partner, the New Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and this is a question regarding the city council's decision to lift the street vendor permit cap, which will create 4,000 new permits for street vendors in the city over the next decade, and create a separately funded law enforcement unit to oversee the street vending community. So there are critics that say this will hurt the restaurant community, which has already been hurting during COVID, while supporters say the more the merrier. And I know that this is potentially an issue on Fordham Road where things are very busy. So we'd like to hear from each person your thoughts on this legislation, and we'll go in the same order for now, beginning with Kenny.
So the issues are that whether you're a brick and mortar business along the Fordham Road bid, which is the third largest shopping center in the city, or you're a street vendor, you need to make money. Many of our business people are immigrants. They don't have the access to things that they need. We as you know, as your city council member, we're going to legislate on working with this cap to enhance it even further, but also to work with everybody. We have to work together in emergency right now. And right now, the people that are on the streets working, the people on the brick and mortar businesses, we need a small business incubator, startup assistance, connecting people with job force development so they can get their jobs. We have restaurant people that are out of work. The lifeblood of this during this pandemic have been our bodegueros, our street vendors, our the people that sell food, the people that are selling, they are getting the foods to the people's mouths. So we have to do everything possible. I will enhance that legislation, but also work in partnership. We're gonna have ways of doing everything. So I hope I didn't go over time.
Thank you. Troy.
Yeah, so in terms of this, I support the lift on the cap of vendors. I don't think this takes away from brick and mortar business. I believe that there are certain restrictions that come with this. And so I think it's important for us to look back. What was happening was that a lot of these vendors were being over-policed, and many called it like crimmigration, where the NYPD was specifically targeting a lot of Latino immigrants who are the ones who were pretty much entrepreneurial and owned a lot of the vendors, at least particularly in the Bronx and in the boroughs. So I think it's important to recognize that aspect of what's happening here. Also with this vendor cap, the street vendors have to be at least 20 feet away from the businesses. And so I think it's not going to take away from that. I think what we've seen in COVID, because of lack of commercial lease assistance, so many of the brick and mortars have shut down and people are at a loss for job and income. With this, if you paid the $500 annual fee to get the license for the vendor, this is about entrepreneurial spirit. And this is like what drives our economy. This is part of the American dream, being able to come here and start something with little to no nothing. So I don't think this takes away from anything. I think there's certain rules put in place to protect brick and mortar businesses. There's also certain restrictions on the vendors themselves. So there's guidelines there that protect everyone.
Thank you. Elisa.
Yeah, I want to just build on what Troy has stated. I don't think we should be pitting the vendors and the brick and mortar business owners against one another. I support lifting the cap. I do, as Troy mentioned, there are requirements for street vendors to be a certain distance away from the entrance of the brick and mortar businesses. We understand that at some points those rules are not followed. I do support removing the NYPD out of the enforcement process and placing someone who's unarmed specific to enforcement, vendor enforcement. But overall, these are micro businesses. They're mainly run by our immigrant population, and there's room for everyone, and we'll figure it out. But I don't think necessarily there's much truth to the fact that the vendors are infringing upon the success of brick and mortar businesses.
Thank you. Latchmi.
Yeah, definitely want to agree and again build on what Troy and Elisa just described. I think we have to also look at organizations like the Street Vendor Project that and use that as a framework for what needs to be happening. They've laid out what support looks like, and that is a right to counsel. That is making sure that they are protected and that the NYPD is not involved. And we've seen and have reports of and really daunting visuals of street vendors, you know, women who are selling churros in the train stations being harassed, right? And like that is happening unnecessarily. That and she was that particular instance not at all in front of a brick or mortar location and didn't impact the potential fiscal gain for that day. And so there is room for everyone. We have to make sure that we're creating protections. I'm on the associate board of WEDCO that specifically does a lot of this work right now in the South Bronx, making sure that street vendors are not only supported when it comes to counsel, but that they get access to legal services and are able to formalize some of their businesses. They're able to create wraparound services. So really we have to be expanding services and programming to allow for more room for street vendors as well as our brick and mortar small businesses. There is room for everyone, and we just have to make sure that we create the pipelines for protection that doesn't involve overcriminalization.
Thank you. And Lily.
Yes, I have to agree as well. I mean, I see it all the time when I go through Arlington Avenue, how I see all these vendors just trying to make a living and how they're already targeted unjustifiably. So I honestly have to say that there's room for everyone, and we all have to come together because once again, there is no one without the other. And if we build some stairs of reaching to that golden gate for just one for all and all for one, I think that we'll have a better district to look forward to, a district that'll be revitalized because there are true partnerships. And that's where we need to go. The fundamentals of back in the day where people work together to become one.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Now let's hear from Jose Padilla.
Okay. The main aim of that law was basically to have the permit owners on site because they were finding out a lot that many of the permit owners were renting out their permits for triple and double the amount of money. Okay. Now, in terms of the businesses, I think that maybe perhaps the law may have to be looked at and possibly made an amendment. I don't specifically know the actual reading of the bill, but what can be done is that something that to the effect that within a certain amount of room or space, that some of the merchandise that is being sold by a brick and mortar, which they pay taxes for and they're paying rent for, that it will not affect the individuals who are selling the merchandise on the street. So if there's a classification of the merchandise that they can sell, where actually someone may be wanting to go shop for one particular item, but then as they exit or even enter the store, they can pick up another particular item that is not associated with that particular store. I think that there could be a common ground. So I'm committed to basically looking at the reading of the law itself and perhaps making an amendment so that all can coexist. And this way we won't have any problems and hostilities between the business improvement districts, the owners of the stores, and also from the vendors.
Thank you.
Scott.
Thank you. John.
Yeah, I think this is a very simple issue. Yes, the cap should be lifted. We should expand open streets for vendors, and we should have vendor zones where they can sell their merchandise and they're not interfering with the local businesses. And we should be working with the business improvement districts for suggestions of streets where we could have these vendor zones. One classic example that's already happened, Fordham Road has had the Bronx Night Market at Fordham Plaza, which was a great event where a lot of food vendors from the Bronx were selling their merchandise and their food, and it was great. Let's do more of that, where we have specific zones for events like that. It avoids any issues, because right now, if you walk up Fordham Road, you see some vendors selling legitimate items, but then you have other people doing 3-card money. And we don't want that for our neighborhood. And we want Fordham Road to fulfill its potential.
Thank you. And Altagracia.
Yes, I think that everybody who walk around Fordham Road they see the vendors on the street. That's part of the picture. That's part of our neighborhood. And we are glad to have them. But this problem comes from what I said before. They don't have the money to pay the rent, the highest level of rent to have a business. And they have the necessity to get the living, to get the money. So they don't have any more option than being on the street and sell their merchandise on the street. I think we have to deal with the issues first. Why they cannot get a place, why they cannot rent a place, because it's too higher the rent. And that's why they are on the street. And we have to understand that they need to make a living, that they have to supply the family, that they have to provide for their children. That's why they are in the street. So I think it's a big issue that we have to address that from the beginning, from the roof, from the point. And that's what I think.
Thank you. Now, next, I'd like to talk about NYCHA. There's a lot to say here, and so I'll give everyone, again, 1 minute to talk about NYCHA. But as you know, your predecessor in Council District 15 was the chair of public housing. There's a lot of NYCHA housing in the district. What will you do to fix public housing? How will you work to empower the people of your district to become homeowners? And wherever you want to take this question, I know there's a movement to partially privatize public housing through RAD, and tell us your thoughts on what you're going to do to help NYCHA housing. And we'll go in the same order, and then we'll switch it up after this. So Kenny.
Well, this is a very great question. And, Lily and I have worked many years to improve housing in our community, as in our jobs as community constituent services people. We are here to find out how do we help a system that's been federally neglected for so many years. Billions of dollars are supposed to go from HUD that aren't. The RAD program is a great start, but we want to make sure that the developers that are doing the work focus on the apartments, that are making sure that there's new appliances that are doing things. As you're going from Section 9 to Section 8, that we're going to make sure that sustainability and succession rights are affected. A lot of people, being honest, they won't put their children on so they could pay a little less rent, and because they're not making enough to pay rent. What happens at the end of the day, the person gets sick and dies, and they have no succession rights. So then they're homeless. The same thing happens with Section 8. Thank you.
Okay. Night.
Yeah, so 2 points on NYCHA. The first is I do support property-based budgeting, one, so that repairs can be handled a lot swifter and faster. In terms of RAD, it's something that I'm still on the fence with. It's not something I fully support from my conversations with residents. Sorry, by the way, if you hear the train in the background, but from my conversations with residents, the big issue with RAD is that residents were left out of the process in the formation of RAD. There wasn't language access with it. We already know that 38% of the Bronx doesn't have home internet, so everyone couldn't access these Zoom conversations that were happening. Also, the big fault with it for me is, as someone running for an elected office, is that they're appointing a 9-person board through RAD. And if this board faults on payments, there is no emergency funding that can come from the city council. So to me, that's the big stipulation and the asterisk that I have, is that how are we going to, this is why my asterisk is that we're going to have this quasi-private board of 9 people, but if he faults on payments, as the council member representing the district, the council has no authority to step in for emergency funds. That's a disaster.
Thank you. Elisa, your thoughts, anything about NYCHA that you want to say in 1 minute?
I mean, there's too much to say, but NYCHA is a moral and political stain on New York City and the state of New York. Every level of government has divested from NYCHA over the years and has really left some of our most vulnerable residents out for blood to die. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's frankly immoral. I think we need to fully fund NYCHA. Every level of government has to step it up, but this is really a lack of political will and courage on behalf of the federal government, who has consistently divested from public housing authorities across the United States. I support Congresswoman Nidia Velazquez's bill that would provide the funding that we need, the adequate amounts of billions of dollars in our capital budget to upgrade NYCHA. And I support the shared governance and collective ownership of NYCHA. NYCHA has so much potential, and across the city of New York, if they organize together, they will be a force to be reckoned with.
Thank you. Latchmi, how do we fix this issue?
Yeah, definitely agree. Again, going after folks who have similar ideas here, but NYCHA, like it was stated, there's been intentional neglect. There's been divestment, and what we need to be doing is making sure that we are pushing all levels of government to put in investment, and we also have to get creative. The push to privatize NYCHA actually it doesn't have enough political courage, and it's not creative enough. What we have to be doing is taxing the rich, taxing the 1%, putting that revenue into NYCHA, recognizing that NYCHA houses some of our most vulnerable community members, but equally of value. And I think that's where we see the dissonance here. It's individuals who are elders, who are disabled, who are folks who have to shelter in place, people who are on disability or fiscally insecure, economically insecure. And these are individuals who fully deserve a system and need a system that is going to continue to not only support, but also work with them and hear them and be part of collective decision-making when we're making decisions about NYCHA. So very much support the organizing of tenants in NYCHA and the collective ownership there. We see it happening already with a pushback against the blueprint and RAD. And if we are able to tax the rich and really push revenue from all across government, we'll see a change and a shift in the value of NYCHA and where it could actually be.
Thank you. Lilith.
Well, yes, this is my forte. I've been at this as a stakeholder, as a policymaker with NYCHA. The blueprint for change is not going to happen. We have spoken to HUD and the federal government regarding it. They agreed that if the residents are not in agreement with it, it's not going to happen. We are not going to go from Section 9 to Section 8 because we do lose our rights. And the PAC was a bad idea. They never once, when we sat at the table with them, we asked them for a contractual agreement. They were never able to do that. All it is a Band-Aid. We've had 4 different administrations in NYCHA that even if Nidia Velazquez and all the other Congress people, as well as Maxwell Waters, she provides some funding to us. It's not going to matter if we don't have accountability and recognize the negligence of NYCHA. We have to get an independent forensic audit on NYCHA because there are people right now residing in these apartments illegally, and that's potential revenue. So we got a clean house before we start worrying about getting funding. I wouldn't recommend it at this moment in time.
Okay. Jose.
Well, you have to bear in mind that since January of 2019, NYCHA is currently in an agreement with the Southern District of New York. So we have to analyze that agreement to see, how and possibly as a city council person, we can actually intervene in this particular issue because, NYCHA has the blueprint for change, which was just mentioned. And also there's going to be legislation right now at the Assembly where they're looking, to approve the preservation trust to raise the capital to be able to, to invest the $40 billion or more or plus that are going to be needed to, to renovate and upgrade some of the housing develops. You have to remember that there are no quick fixes in this particular issue, but I'm going to be committed to reviewing that Southern District agreement and see wherever I can possibly intervene for the benefit of the residents or anyone that's living in those NYCHA developments.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. John, how do we fix this issue?
My mother grew up in NYCHA in the 60s, and Patterson Houses still looks the same 50 years later. The calls to fund NYCHA are important, but I don't anticipate Congress funding NYCHA. I don't see any incentive to do it because they haven't done it for the past 50 years. I support Blueprint for Change because it's a specific idea and specific plan. What it would do is NYCHA would maintain the land, rents would not go up, but instead, a trust would be set aside by the state of New York, and the funding would go to Section 8, but tenant protection vouchers can be leveraged to finance the repairs. To keep it in context, $40 billion is nearly half of New York City's budget. We don't have the money to fund this. The state doesn't have the money to fund this. And when you speak to the residents at Murphy Monterey. They don't care about these policy arguments. They just want heat and hot water, and they don't want leaky roofs anymore.
Altagracia.
I think a lot of the candidates were talking about the money. And I think NYCHA have a lot of money. The problem is how they distribute the money, how they use the money. And that's, for me, that's the problem that they really have. They need to focus. They need to put the money where they're really needed. They need to focus on fix the apartment. They need to focus on clean the NYCHA building. They need to focus on the garbage. They need to focus on the situation that there is no heat, they don't have water, they don't, focus on the condition of the building, focus on the condition of the people that are living on that building. That's why the money should go. Instead of funding, giving more money to NYCHA, they need to realize how they're using the funding that they have.
Thank you. Now listen, time flies when there's a ton of people on this panel. So I want to remind the audience, if you have questions, put it in the Q&A function. And for the next question that I'm going to pose, I'm going to do 2 questions in one. I'm going to have each of you, and we're going to go in reverse order this time. So beginning with Altagracia, let's hear from each candidate. Tell us a time where you've worked with another candidate on this panel, if you've worked together to achieve a goal. And also you have an opportunity to say a criticism of someone else, one of your competitors. And then if you criticize someone, that person can respond for 30 seconds. Cool? Altagracia.
Yeah, you said that you're gonna start it with me.
Yes.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to work with one of the candidates yesterday, and I think that we did a great job. I worked together with John, so I went to his campaign place, and we have a good conversation. We went out together. We reached people together. We went out to a building, knocking on the door, let the people know that we are running, talking about the ranking choice voting, what they could do, how they gonna do it. So I think it was a great idea, and it was a great experience for me, and I hope for Johnny too. And the only thing that I criticize, it's in general. I'm not gonna point to anybody.
Okay.
That most of the candidates, maybe that they think that the ranking choice voting is maybe not important, so we don't need to get a partnership with none of us, or maybe we could work by this alone. And I think it could be a good idea if most of us get together and work together.
Okay, very nice. John.
Yeah, I want to echo what Altagracia said. It's important with ranked choice voting that you actually fulfill the mission of it. So we were campaigning together with voters, speaking to voters that spoke Spanish, spoke English, telling them that we're in this together. And whether you have me or Altagracia as your first choice, you can pick the other as a second choice. And it was a great experience, and I'm hoping to continue it. And I have no criticism of the other candidates. I'll let the voters decide that.
Oh, it's a really nice group. You should have heard on the CD11 debate. Okay, Jose, your turn.
Well, I know Kenny Agosto for many years. We were both district leaders for the Democratic Party. We've even though we really haven't worked together on a specific issue, but we've been alongside some of the actually we did with the LGBTQ issue, the marriage equality issue. And I also know John Sanchez from Community Board 6. In terms of the other candidates, I do not know them. I don't have any experience with them. I'm working with them. But in terms of criticism, I take it very personal in terms of, John Sanchez, when he says that the community board has done an exemplary job. This district is at its crossroads. It is in deterioration. And part of, his job is to be the administrator of the district. And I also criticize him because he's accepting political action committee money. There is a lot of money that is being poured into this race for his benefit. And I believe that he should denounce it. Why are all these special interest groups and throwing money at his candidacy so that they can elect him, so that they can come in like sharks and then and get something in return?
Okay.
So that's the criticism.
Thank you. John, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Sure. I have the only community board in the city with a year-round paid internship program, sponsored open gyms, financial literacy classes, and more. I can't control political action committees. They work independently. They funded several mailers for other candidates. I can't control them. I'm focused on my race.
Okay. Lily, your turn.
Yes, I gotta say, Kenny and I have worked in the local community board. I was a member of the community board 11, so I know the politics. I have worked with Kenny in housing issues, in constituent services and campaign issues. I'm not your typical campaign something. I'm a little disenfranchised of people like myself that are grassroots candidates. Somewhat I could say that about Kenny, that we have to struggle because of special interests. People should be voted in because of merit. I was good enough, and I just want to say this publicly, I was good enough to get elected officials when they wanted to knock on my door to get elected. The minute I decide, because I'm so disenfranchised with the political machine, and I'm so disenfranchised of people thinking this is an easy seat, that they can just come in, and that's why I'm running. I want people that are voting to vote their conscience, to vote for what matters. But I'm not really into, all the political of who said what or what said. People thought I wasn't going to be running. I am running for those who were misinformed. I am running, and I want them to know. But I would say that, Kenny and I have had a good working relationship. And, I wouldn't have a problem with, collaboratively working with him and him working with me. And let the voters speak. That's all. All the fighting is irrelevant. We got better things to do.
What a nice group. Thank you. Okay, Latchmi, your turn.
Yeah, thank you. So I haven't worked directly with any of the candidates here. I will say that Kenny and I have worked alongside other individuals. Our teams have worked with each other significantly. So my field director, Shaniqua Charles, has done housing organizing and criminal justice work and has been on the ground with Kenny. And this is at a time that I was working nationally on economic justice work. And so our worlds have always crossed, and Kenny and I share a camaraderie around what we really believe community organizing, the power of community organizing when it reaches elected office, what that could look like and where the accountability is. And as far as criticism of other candidates, definitely not going to do that. I think you're hearing camaraderie because that's been the case for a majority of this time, and we've said it on other forums. But I will criticize the electoral process in general. What's happening with ranked choice voting and what's happening around voter disenfranchisement has happened always in the Bronx, continues to happen, and will be significantly part of this election, unfortunately, with the lack of information around ranked choice, with the lack of voter engagement and bringing folks into the process. And our community is majority Black, brown, working class, and immigrant, and that is unfair and it is intentional. And the Board of Elections and our city electeds and institutions need to be doing more work of communicating so that voters feel empowered at the polls and are able to do things like what was just described, having the information to make informed decisions about what they want their community to look like.
Thank you. Troy.
Yes, I haven't worked directly with any of my colleagues here, but I know I met Kenny at the Black Latino Caucus a while back. I know that both I share a similar network with Latchmi and John. We know similar people from different circles within politics. I don't have a criticism of my colleagues. I think from what I'm sensing and what I've gotten is that most of us are in the race for the right reasons. We maybe have different trajectories to get there, but I think for most of us, our heart is in the right place.
That's so beautiful. You really have to watch the recording of the Schneps Media rapid fire debates for Council District 11, because I'm telling you, it turned into a Bravo reunion show. And it's nice that you guys are all friends and love each other. Kenny, let's hear from you. Can you spice it up a little bit, please?
I'll spice it up as to say that I agree with how we do things here. I agree that we're for ranked choice voting to democratize it. We're for the special election that's nonpartisan, that democratizes it. There is special interest money in this race. I'm not here to attack anybody. I'm just saying there is interest money in this race. And I, mailing, a lot of us haven't been able to make mailings. So I've been doing door to door, old school style. Okay, I have people volunteering for me, and we're giving out our flyers. They have a space for a label, but I don't have money for that. I've worked with Lily extensively in the Senate as a colleague. She's been an advocate for Parkside houses and in her role as chair. I've worked with the community managers, John and Aisha. I work with Jose on LGBTQ, and thank you for that support to our community. And Latchmi, I've never worked together directly, but if she was doing tenant advocacy, if she was doing transportation alternatives, food insecurity, that, we were working with the same people. So these are the things. I didn't have so Altagracia Soldevilla, her role in education is big. We have great people running in this race. This is the most important election. I've been saying it over and over and over. This is the most important election in our time. I just wanted to say this quick second that we're here to make sure that whoever wins, they take over the next day for Richie Torres' seat, that we're able to do something about pandemic relief and response, stimulating our local economy, ensuring housing is a right. So that's what we're here for. And we're not gonna mix it up. I'll mix it up as much as I can, but we're here to talk business about what's the community about.
Now, we have just a few minutes left. Look, there's 3 minutes left. It really flew by. So I'll give everyone a choice. We can do a rapid fire round where, we're all on the screen here together and you raise your hand or you give a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on the question. We can do that for 3 minutes, or everyone can give a 30-second concluding thought about anything they want. So would you want to do the rapid fire? Raise your hand. Wow. Oh, okay. Everyone wants to give
Let's go with the rapid fire, Sky. Let's go with the rapid fire.
Oh, concluding thoughts is good too.
Fine. See, it looks like who wants concluding thoughts? Raise your hand. Troy and John, you guys didn't vote.
I'm good either way. I'm ranked choice voting here.
Which is your one, Troy? Which is your
one? Which is it?
First choice, I guess the rapid fire. Second choice, 30-second closeout.
Okay, guys, here's the rapid fire. Raise your hand if you are vaccinated. Raise your hand if you had the virus. Raise your hand if you think Governor Cuomo should resign. Raise your hand if you think there should be due process.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can have both. He can still resign and have due process at the same time.
That's what they said, Council District 11 too. You guys. Raise your hand if you want to defund the police. Raise your hand if you want to work with the police.
I'm a former law enforcement
officer,
so I have to work with them because in our community we need it, Sky.
Gotta work with them, exactly. I know we
gotta work with both sides. We gotta work with both sides.
Everyone
needs to work
together, and
I
get
think they're mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually exclusive. They're not.
But Latchmi said.
We didn't get into gun violence. We didn't get into homelessness. We didn't get into mental health. So there's a lot.
We have to.
I am doing the Schneps Media Politics NY 3 minutes with each candidate. I've had John and I've spoken with Troy. I'd like to speak with each of you for the 3 questions in 3 minutes. So please connect with me about that. We're highlighting everyone because, as you know, when you're out there campaigning, it's not the same as it was before the virus. People aren't able to get a sense of your personality. So I'd like to highlight each candidate. And I want to thank you for your time and thank the audience for their time. And this debate was recorded and you can stay tuned on our website, subscribe to our newsletter with Schneps Media. It's politicsny.com. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. And I'm Sky with Politics NY.
I love you all. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Latchmi, Altagracia, John, everybody.